My quick crowdfunding game I wanted to bring up is chicken. Chicken, right? You have to when you say chicken. It's time for the Sultan Sass podcast when we share our love for the wonderful world of board games with you, whether you are a gaming veteran or just starting your tabletop journey. Welcome to episode 5. I'm Suzanne.
And I'm Mandi.
Woo woo, Mandi. Another episode. I'm so excited.
Me too. I always feel like it's been so long, even though it hasn't been a long time. I don't know.
2
I feel
weeks.
like
2 weeks is a long time. I can understand. A
maybe
lot can happen in 2 weeks, Mandy.
that is a good point, as we will soon see with my little listing of games that we're going to talk about.
Oh
But
boy.
I know you have something else that's game related. That's
Well,
actually
I
related
just
to this podcast, like board game
Yeah.
related.
What a concept, right? Well, I just thought, just in case our friends here don't know that the
hmm
Slay the Spire board game has launched on Kickstarter. And I
Yes.
know that that would be of interest for a fair number of folks out there, including me, because, I'm a huge Slay the Spire
hmm
video game fan and of course when we played Slay the Spire, it's a deck builder, right?
Yes.
And so when we first talked about Slay the Spire all those months and months and months ago, we commented on how it pulled analog mechanisms into a digital world.
Right.
And now here we go, reversing the cycle. And now they're making a physical board game out of the video game. It's
Right.
really, really interesting because honestly, it looks like they did a fairly faithful translation of the video game to a tabletop game experience in terms of having a board with the tracks that you seed with random tokens that give you the encounters, whether it's treasures or elites or whatnot. And then obviously you have the decks as well. You have the characters, all that good stuff. And it looks like Slay the Spire. And it's really interesting though to hear reactions to that because a lot of fans are like, "This is perfect. This is exactly what we wanted." Because you can play it cooperatively, right? It's not the one downside to the video game is it's just you
hmm
playing, right?
Right.
And maybe like with Monster Train, you and I have played it together and we've had a blast. And the nice thing about the video game is, or the board game, is that you can play it cooperatively with other people.
Right.
On the other hand, I have seen some criticism of it that it's too faithful, that they should have
Mm.
taken advantage of the the analog format and streamlined it a little bit or changed it a little bit. I'm not going to I haven't played it, so I'm not going to comment on that, but I
Sure.
just thought that was an interesting quote unquote controversy. The other
Right.
thing is the basic version of the game is $100 plus shipping.
Not gonna lie,
Yeah.
that's I anyway. I'll let you talk about it and yeah,
Well, no, that's all it is. It's a little higher than I'd hoped. And believe me, I understand the cost
sure.
of making board games very, very well. And the reality is a lot of board games are probably underpriced compared to the amount of design time and people power and the cost of goods that go into making a game. A lot of board games are probably underpriced. All that is in my head, but I still went, "Oh no, $100, eep." So I
I
technically haven't backed it yet. I really want to, but
uh,
I'm,
you and me both.
money's
The
a little tight right
fingers,
now.
the fingers here, and I'm like, I can't do it. But here's the thing: I think people would have less of an issue with it if you had options. You don't have options. It's like base and then like a couple,
Well, there's
extra.
like an upgraded version, but it's more
Sure,
expensive, right? The
it's more
cheapest you're gonna
expensive,
get in is that
right?
$100.
So I feel like because people don't have those options, like I was the type of person looking at it, I'm like, okay, I'd pay like 65, $75 for this game. And keeping in mind, I don't know behind the scenes, the costs and things like that. You have a better idea of that. Not to say that what I say should be law, like this is how much it should be.
Of course.
But I think if people had options, like I know that it comes with like dragon shield sleeves.
Right.
Those aren't cheap sleeves. Do you know what I
No, those
mean?
are
So
nice, yeah.
they're nice, but, like, maybe people and I know they're specific to the game, but they're also graphic sleeves from what I was told, so there's
Yeah.
art on them, which, again, I understand might be part of the game, but I feel like costs could have been altered slightly that or at least give people options within that to be like, "You know what? I can't really afford this, so maybe I'll opt for this." And I think that's where people are feeling maybe that I want to back it, but it's just too much money. So I think if they had that option, then maybe they could say, I can't afford this, so I'm going to go, with this level, which is maybe just a little cheaper. So that's just my feeling on it. I mean, I'm also the type of person that'll spend the money if I know it's something that I'll play or get a lot of play out of.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
This is another issue for me. I play the video game quite a bit. That's your fault, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So, how much am I actually going to get the board game to the table? So, for me right now, it's worth, and I put this in quotes, not even just monetary value, it's worth about $65 for me
Oh,
because I
interesting. You've got
know
a price and everything in mind. All right. Well, there
but
you
I'm
go.
not saying it needs to sell at that, but for me, for the amount of times it'll actually get to the
Sure.
table and for me to play it, it's about a $65 game.
Right.
So,
And so it sounds like it's not going to be one that you're it sounds like one you're hoping a friend locally will back so that you can play their version.
I say that now and then watch in a couple of podcasts, I backed it. Yeah,
I mean, that's a reasonably likely scenario knowing you too, Mandy.
accurate.
Fair enough. So there you
Speaking
go,
of,
folks. If you are interested in this Slay the Spire board game and didn't want to miss it when it hit the crowdfund, there it is. It's on Kickstarter. Check it out if it's something that might interest you. And feel free to let us know your thoughts.
mm,
I think the controversy about the way it looks like it's been interpreted from digital to physical
right.
is really, really interesting just from a dialogue point of view. So feel
Hmm.
free to chime in.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is a game that I don't have, but let's talk about some games that I do have.
Oh, so
Oh
many.
boy, I know. So we're now leaving temporarily the board game sphere and jumping into the video game sphere. I know, just for a
Oh,
little bit.
yes, of course. Shocking.
Yes, just for a bit. So I think I'm a glutton for punishment because I am restarting Elden Ring.
Oh, okay.
So for those who don't know, Elden Ring is one of those kind of like Dark Souls games. Like they're meant to be extremely difficult. So normally not my type
Not
of
for
game.
me.
However, it was purchased for me as a gift and I was like, okay, I'll try it. I think I got to like level 47 and I was like, hey, I'm tired of like sneaking around and trying to avoid getting pummeled this entire game. So level 47, I was like, I'm done. Left it alone. They've now
Okay.
since created, not like the company specifically, but someone's created a co-op version because the
Oh.
co-op in Elden Ring is not great. It's like you can have someone come into your game, help you fight a boss, but then they leave. It drops you. But then you also open your game for other players to come in and take you out. Not a fan of that at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I hated that was like one of the biggest things I hated. So now they have a co-op version where you need a password. So if people want to play in your game, they need to have a
Nice.
password to play in your game. I'm like, oh, and they can play cooperatively with you through the whole game. So I have a friend. So Slivers, if you're listening, thank you for helping me level up. And I'm playing it with him and my brother. So we're gonna try
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
hopefully get past that level 47 I did the first time. So let's hope my vagabond is pretty sweet. So we'll see how that goes. So that's my punishment right now with Elden Ring. It's going well, but we'll see how that pans out. On the other end of the spectrum, I'm trying Dreamlight Valley. So it's so cute. It's like Stardew Valley meets Animal Crossing.
With at Disneyland.
At Disneyland. Yes, how could I forget that? At Disneyland. So if you follow me on social media, I've posted a couple pictures of me being my best Disney princess in my little island or area. I've now progressed and gotten rid of some of the bad vines in the valley. So I hope I'm meeting Ursula soon. This is very exciting. But it's a lot of that kind of like farming and building and that sort of thing. It's definitely a game that I feel could be highly addictive. And this is why I'm trying to get Suzanne on this bandwagon with my addiction. She's like, no.
I don't need more video games right now. Back,
But
foul demon.
I'm sorry, but if you have Xbox Game Pass, it's on Game Pass, so you wouldn't have to pay for it if
Oh
you have
no,
it.
don't tell me that. Ugh.
So there's that, and then finally, we're kind of back to the dark side a bit, but like retro dark. I started playing this game called Signalis, which also just dropped on Game Pass. It's a new game, literally just dropped, and it was like a first. It just came to Game Pass on its launch as well, and I think it's also on Steam and some other things. It's like I didn't know what to make of it at first because it kind of almost has, and I don't know if it's anime as the correct terminology. I know someone's gonna like roast me for that, but it has that type of cartooning in the illustrations, and then the game itself is almost like a little retro styled, but it's like retro horror. But when you start playing it, it's not horror. Like you're like walking through things and you're like, okay, whatever. It's only till like came up into like a later scene where I actually had to shoot something because it was dead and then it wasn't. So- and it's one of those games where you can only save when you can get to a computer in the game. So if you don't get to a computer in the game, your game's not being saved. So it's like more of those, those like retro kind of horror games. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you see it. So it's not like those super highly graphic Resident Evil type of thing. It's like closer to like not quite a 2D platformer, but like closer to that neck of the woods. Anyway, Signalis, I'm really liking it so far, and it's puzzly because you have to solve puzzles and stuff. And maybe just because I'm doing really well, I'm very excited about it. So I'll keep you updated.
Awesome. All right. Well, did you get all your video games off your chest for today,
I
Mandi?
did. I feel like neither auctions. I don't know, $25 here. No, 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 no. I feel like I was talking like that because I was so excited. But
No,
yes,
it's awesome.
I'm
And
done.
that is just fine. Now I know we already talked about Slay the Spires being on Kickstarter, but of course we have some crowdfunding games we want to talk about separately. So let's do that.
Okay, so Magpie is what I'm going to mention. It's not the one I'm going to talk about. It's finished. It's finished. But I had meant to talk about it last time and I think we missed it. So it's funded and it's a roll and write. Of course, why am I talking about this? Suzanne should be the one talking about this.
Well, I backed it, so I didn't miss it. Yeah,
As
Magpie is a roll and write by the prolific Benny Sperling, and I don't know what else to
No,
say.
that's
What
it.
else
I was
did
just
you
gonna
want to
say you
say?
should check it out. The link is there if you want to grab one, grab a copy. Check it out, Magpie. But that's not the one I'm going to talk about today in more detail. I'm going to be talking about Star Sworn: Write Stories Through Play. Now, this one here, I have my little page open. This is why I like doing the video, so people can actually see that I'm doing the thing. So it's created here by someone by the name of Michael Lowe, and it's literally that. It's a storytelling game, and what I like is that it's for all ages, and it combines a coloring book and a choose your own adventure, and it's a role-playing game. I mean, if that doesn't get you thinking, "Oh my gosh, I need to see this," I don't know what will. So it ends on November 19th. Of course, I have already backed it. I think I had mentioned it to Suzanne. She's like, "What? I didn't even see this one."
Ugh,
And
there's so
right.
many.
And I like the fact that because you have a family, Suzanne, it is one that you could do like with your kids if they wanted,
Mhm.
because they have that coloring portion. I mean, I'm 42 years old, and guess what? I still enjoy coloring. So for me, that was like a grabbing point. But I also enjoy those choose your own adventures as well. So for me,
Totally.
yeah, those kind of things, and anything that requires any type of creative writing, or it's kind of like an easy process to play and tell a story. Like I think in this, at minimum, you need is like a 6-sided die. I think you can progress with more, but that's like at minimum, and it comes in like a hardcover book when you get it. So Starsworn for me, I don't know, it just it looks simple but still interesting, and I think it just grabs me because it has multiple elements to keep you engaged. So Starsworn, it's a winner for me.
Cool. Mandi, now I almost wanted to review a game today, but I decided to wait because I think you're going to get a copy of it
Oh,
too. Did
okay.
you back Spire's End Hildegard?
Mine, it's so late. I see everybody online getting
Okay,
theirs
but
in the
it's because you're in
UK.
Canada. I know, but like the
Whoa,
latest update
whoa.
on the campaign said it shipped.
Yes.
So
They
fingers crossed you get it soon.
I know,
Okay,
because I have
then
the
I will.
first one.
Oh, I know.
First
It's
one was
so good.
so good. So,
So,
yeah.
okay, I'm not gonna no spoilers, but I'm
Okay.
very excited. Like as soon as you get it, play it as much as you can so we can review it because
Okay.
I am eager to discuss it on the podcast.
And yes, everybody, it is a solo game. Don't say
Well, it is a
anything.
solo, but going to what you were just talking about with Starsworn, like there's this
Yeah,
strong narrative element. So I'm
exactly. So that's
I'm
why I like
really
it.
excited for you to play it.
Like that. Mhm.
All right. My quick crowdfunding game I wanted to bring up is chicken. Chicken. Right? You have to when you say chicken.
I know.
This is a push your luck game designed by Scott Olms, who, of course, is a very talented and prolific designer. It has a phenomenal graphic art look to it by the Carpenter Collective, which is not a group I'm familiar with. I think it's a couple. It
Oh,
looks so cool. It's just very retro but modern at the same
Yeah.
time. I don't know how to explain it. And this is being published by Keymaster Games, who of course has done things like Space Park and Parks and things like that. So great publisher, great designer, great art, and really it's just a simple push your luck game. You've got these dice, and they've got chickens and foxes and eggs. Chickens are points, foxes nullify chickens, and eggs get you more dice. And it all comes rolled up in a cardboard tube, which I know the packaging will be somewhat controversial, but it looks really, really sharp. And there's a retail edition for 20 bucks. There's a deluxe version for 35 bucks. And if you read the campaign page, it's really, really clear Keymaster is attuned to kind of the shipping stress and shipping pressures that are happening right now, from a backer point of view, right? So they
Right.
they talk about that, and certainly in the US, the deluxe edition will ship for free. The shipping's included
That's
in
good.
that 35. So, you know, if you are looking for a fun, lighthearted, well-produced, beautiful game that you can play with your family, like think about holidays or picnics on the summer because it comes with a cloth board, which is really sharp looking too.
Ooh, nice.
I just think chickens looks like a ton of fun, so check that one out. It is on Kickstarter and it goes through at least mid-November, so you got plenty of time.
I know my chicken. You got to know your chicken. It is a group and it is a song, and I know our friend Nicole listens, and she will 100% know what that song is. Bonus points if you know that song. I know my chicken. You got to know your chicken. I used to love this group. Love them when I was younger.
It's
Okay.
Canadians, man.
All right. I've got some games today. They are on the lighter side, but that's because I'm gearing up for some heavy games that are coming in. So I need to get in some more plays of Red Cathedral and Weather Machine. I know you got yours, Suzanne. I did
I
not get
haven't
mine
played
yet.
it at all yet. I just got it a few days. We're recording on the weekend, and my plans. I'm gonna spend some time lovingly unboxing that sucker.
That's it. So next podcast, I have a feeling it's going to be like some heavier games. So let's start off with a light and fresh one today called Walkie Talkie, and this is designed by Isra C and Shay S, and its art is by Meeple Foundry. I am not familiar with Meeple Foundry, and it is published by Devere. It's for 2 to 8 players, and it plays in 1 to 4 minutes. Yes, that is accurate. It retails for about 9.95 Canadian and also in US dollars. So Walkie Talkie is a co-op game, and players have like a very limited amount of time per player. I think it's like 30 seconds to get rid of all of your cards in hand. And obviously the more cards you play, the higher your score will be. Um I just want to start off by saying, oh, our scores were so bad. They were so bad. So it's one of those games where you have letters on the cards and you have colors. And depending on the card that's played and the color that's visible, you have to say a word that starts with the letter and matches the color. So I don't know, Suzanne, let's give me a color and a letter here.
Like a green bee.
Okay. So um yeah, a green bee. Birch.
Sure.
There we go, like a birch tree. Okay, that was a terrible example, but
I
you
was
get
thinking
what
broccoli, but
which is my favorite vegetable. Where was I going with that? Anyways, you have you can imagine how hard it is. There, I didn't even have a timer. So in the game, you have a timer, and this is what you have to do. And there are things in the game that kind of like make you shift your cards and stuff. And oh my gosh, and you're supposed to be doing this cooperatively, but sometimes it seems like your team are just not on the same page, and you're like fighting each other.
yeah,
As in,
yeah.
like, why would you do this or say that? Oh my gosh. Anyway, so the game runs out. Sorry, the game ends right when you've run out of time, and ideally you'd like to try and get rid of those cards because cards left in hand are those are going to give you some negative points. So that's the game, and that's why it takes like 1 to 4 minutes to play. So it's a party game, and I'm not a huge fan of party games, but this one was quick. It was fun. It was silly, and it plays relatively quickly. So it's one I can just, and it's a small box, so I can just kind of toss it in my bag. If you're like me, where I have a really hard time thinking on the spot like that. So this is something I would house rule. If you're like me with that kind of mind, just maybe a little bit more time. Not saying you need like 10 minutes, but and I don't think that's going to hurt the game any. So it was a bit of a struggle for someone with my kind of mind, and some people who have ADHD like me are going to be okay with it. Just blurt out things that work. And for sometimes like me, just you got to really think about it. So it happens. And I think that's a lot of people in general. So walkie talkie, fun, quick little party game. And I know Devere's been coming out with these like small box kind of short games. Like I think was it Cactus was the other one?
Ouch.
Ouch. Ouch.
Ouch.
Ouch. Yeah. Stories of ouch.
Ouch and veggies, yeah.
That's right. So walkie talkie is kind of falling into that world. So if you're just looking for something quick, fun, and silly, I think walkie talkie would be a fun one for you.
Yeah, I really actually enjoy Walkie Talkie and the designers behind it. You'd mentioned Red Cathedral and wanting to play more of it. Agreed. A phenomenal
Yes,
game.
so good.
Same designers. So Isra and Shay are
Uh-huh.
Llama Dice, and they are the designers of Red Cathedral. So
So there you
there
go.
you
So
go.
that's why I was enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a really fun little game. I like it. But understood. It's
Yeah.
like a Nomia, right? That tip of the tongue thing
Right. It's like that.
where in retrospect, it's always obvious, but in the moment, under the pressure, yeah. All right. Well, first up for me, The Two Heirs. This
Hmm.
is from Albi Games and pretty new out of Europe. So this is designed by Andra Chiganek, Ivan Dostal, and Olda Rejul. And the illustrations are by Odysseus Stamoglu. And it is a two-player only game made out of mostly cards. So you're going to get this set of cards, and the cards come in different sets. And you're only going to play with 3 of the sets in any given game. And it is two-player only. And what you're going to be doing is getting these cards and laying them out in a shared tableau with your opponent. And when you play a card, it faces you, the bottom faces you, and when your opponent plays, the bottom should face them. So you want to play like across the table from each other, not sitting next to each other. And at the end of the game, you're going to score your cards. Your opponent's going to score their cards and see how it all works out.
Hmm.
Now, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to shuffle the sets that you've decided to play with and then set them out in like, I don't know, there's like 6, 8 cards, something like that come out in a ring of cards that's like the castle.
Okay.
And that's where you're going to be selecting your cards from. And you have little tokens that are called troops. And there's going to be a few that start in the castle, and then you're going to have one that starts out on the starting board. On your turn, you're going to take a card, and then you can just hold on to it. Or if you have enough resources, you can actually play it to the board.
Hmm.
I'm so sorry I paused. It just started raining so hard I could hear it. I'm like, what the heck is that? Oh,
What?
it's okay. It's just rain. Phew, all right. I live in Seattle, folks. This is life. So yeah, you can hold on to the cards, or if you have enough resources, you can play it. And every card has a cost in resources. There's only 3 resources. It's wood, wood, grain, or stone, and some variety of cost there. And then every card has an ability on it that impacts scoring somehow. Now, the way you get those resources is actually pretty interesting. And the way you get the cards is the same way, because in that ring of the castle, similar to like a patchwork in a way,
Hmm.
you have access to the cards that are a certain range in front of you. And that range is determined by how many troops you have remaining in the castle. So if
Hmm.
I have 2 troops in the castle, then I get a range of 2 plus 1. If I have 1 troop in the castle, I get a range of 1 plus 1, right?
Hmm.
And so you want more range. Range is good in the castle. You want more choice because that's where you can select a card from.
Right.
Now, when you're trying to spend resources, that's critical because those are also the cards that you have access to as a resource, because cards are all have a type. Like there's green backgrounds, or there's uh, you know, yellow backgrounds, and for wheat or whatever the resource is, that kind of thing. So when you want to spend a card, you're actually just looking at your hand and the cost of the card, and then what cards you have access to in that range. And you don't take the cards for resources, you just presumptively have those resources. You also get the resources of the card your troop is on in the tableau. So, moving your troop around or potentially getting more troops out of the castle into the tableau can be good from that perspective. So, you have access to resources, you play your cards, you keep on playing, and then at the end of the game when the deck is drained, again, it's two-player only, so it's
Yeah.
seated, right? It's scaled appropriately. You're going to get points from the cards that you manage to play. You're going to get double points for cards that have troops on them.
Mm,
And then there are roads on some of the cards, and you can get points for roads and that kind of thing as well. But all of these cards have those different scoring things. So maybe a card scores for having two fields in the same row or column. Maybe a card has gives you points for not having a shared building type in the same row or column, or have no troops within the 9 cards around it. That, like, there's just a huge variety of scoring conditions that you can play with, and because you're only playing with 3 of the 6 sets and you can mix and match them, there's a lot of kind of inherent variability to how a game will play out, because how those cards interact and what you want to kind of focus on can
yeah.
change so much from game to game. In general, I like the 2 airs. The biggest thing that holds me back from loving 2 airs is that variability. So I think that the resource access and the balance between having troops in the castle versus the benefits they give you out on the tableau is really tense in a positive way. I think that that makes that decision, the choice of when you pull a troop out, uh, really difficult and really challenging in a positive way. Love that about this game. What I have found is not all of the card sets work as well with
Mm,
each other as
right.
some. So sometimes if you're just randomly mixing them, sometimes you end up with scoring conditions that just seem incompatible or make it a little more difficult. And then sometimes they all seem to gel and click, and you can get some really great combos and things like that going on. So ultimately, I like the 2 airs. I think it's a solid two-player game. I'm gonna play it some more, or I hope to
Mhm.
play it some more, but, it doesn't spark for me. So, 2 airs, solid two-player game. If you like that idea of variability, and if you like that kind of tableau building, like Glasgow, right, where you're building a
Mhm.
shared tableau where your opponent's cards can impact yours, that kinda thing,
Right.
definitely worth looking at when it makes it away. If you're in Europe, it's already there. If you're waiting in North America, you can import it like I did.
Stick story of my life. 2 airs. I had not heard of this game. Two-player games are tricky for me to get played,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, if there's no solo option, maybe that I might consider if there was one, but okay. Good to know. Something I'll look into it.
Okay.
Okay, I need to redeem myself before this next game. I'm
Oh my
sorry.
goodness.
Okay,
Wow.
okay. And everyone can play along. I'll give you a minute to think about it because I'm sure you'll come up with something faster than I will. Another color and another letter, please. I need to redeem myself.
Got it. Got it. Okay. How about the letter L
Okay.
and the color red?
Good gravy, Suzanne. Uh,
How's that
lobster,
redemption going?
lobster.
All right, you did it. Good job.
Yes.
Redeemed. You have been redeemed.
So
Ah.
I want to know, people who are listening, you can put it in the comments. Um, how long it took you, or even if you came up with something remotely the same, or even it was really different. Now I'm dying to know. So I feel much better though. Thank you for that.
Okay, good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. So the next game I'm going to talk about is Antiquity Quest. I have thoughts. It's designed by Jessica Beck and Harrison Beck. Art is by David Bach and April Stott, and it's published by Grandpa Beck's Games. It's set for
Ah.
yeah, so I don't think I've reviewed one from Grandpa Beck, or it has been a long time, so thought I'd give this one a whirl. 2 to 8 players, and it plays in about 30 to 90 minutes. Not gonna lie, that threw me a little bit. And the price is 23.95 Canadian. I couldn't seem to locate the US pricing for that. So the goal of this game, let's just start with that, is to have the highest score, like every other game. Yeah, exactly. It's like surprise, but you do have options. You can play the shorter game, or you can play the longer game. I wanted to see how the game plays, so we've played it several times with the longer game. Yeah, okay. I have thoughts. So you have when you start the game. So they were very kind to send me. So this was a review copy, and they were kind to send me some like props and stuff for us to play with. So because the story I know shows like they kind of almost look like archaeologists, like that sort of type of people. So I had like fancy rings, we had gloves, we had bow ties, and so it was really cool. And I thought that was really nice to get us into the game. You start the game with 2 sets of 10 cards, but you're only playing through one set at a time. So within this hand of cards, you have like gems or jewels. If you're trying to create collections, right? So you're trying to either create collections with, gems of different colors or potentially numbers with the same color, like of I guess it would be ascending, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The numbers have to be in order. So you're trying to create these kinds of sets, but you can be affected by other players because there are certain cards that allow for you to kind of mess around with other people. Or you can actually like toss cards into their set. If they have a certain amount of cards in a set, you can actually
Interesting.
throw it off by putting a card in the set to kind of make them score less, because obviously having I think it's like the gems or something, if you have all the gems versus having a mixture of number and gems in a pile will affect the type of score you get. You might get lower scoring. So depending on what's thrown into your sets can decrease the amount of points that you get.
Okay.
So or close off a set and you're like, great, I can't do anything else with this set. So
Hmm.
it's a lot of that. So there's a little bit of that kind of take that action in there, but it's not a lot. So you play through that, but you have to draw cards, right, every time you play. And in order for you to get to that next set of cards, you have to get rid of all of those 10 cards. But sometimes you end up with more than 10 cards because you have cards that will allow you to draw more cards. And it's really hard, or you just can't play. So you don't have a set to start or whatever because you have to put so many cards down to start a set. So I find that was taking a long time to happen. And then when you do get your second set of cards, then you kind of basically you're doing it all over again, but with your next set of cards. But again, the same thing ensues, and other people might still be on their first hand. I mean, obviously the game is going to end when someone has no cards left, but it takes a really long time to get there. So I already kind of explained how the game ends and what happens in the game. I, it's one of those games I don't even 100% know why I didn't love it. It just I felt for what it was. Like in the beginning, it was like, okay, yeah, this is okay. It's cute, set collection. I'm here for it. You can kind of play around and mess around with people's sets. Ha ha, funny. um, and as a 20-minute, like the shorter game, I'd be okay with that. The longer game, it was like, this is the song that doesn't end. It keeps goes on and on, my friends. It was a lot of that. I was like, okay, like, and the people I played with, to be fair, they're not like super gamers. I mean, they're gamers in their own right. And they were enjoying it. So this is where I kind of have to be like, okay, so obviously it's a me thing, but yeah, they were enjoying it. I was, and they were like, yeah, it's a little like longer, but we're having fun. For me, my interest was waning after the second. I was like, hey, I need this game to be done over. It was very repetitive, which is a lot of games, right? There, if it's a simple kind of rule set,
Sure.
but I
Sure.
didn't find it scaled into anything more interesting. It was just the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then based on the types of cards you got will depend on how your game played out, right? If you're playing with people that are a little more interactive or really want to mess you up, great. That might shake up the game a little bit more. But again, then that's dependent on the people you're playing with. So people I played with, they enjoyed it. This was a simpler rule set for them, and they seemed to like the whole set collection. One of them, like, kind of playing around, like, "Oh, I got you. You can't finish that set. Haha, good fun." And they were here for it. For me, it just didn't scale into anything better for me. So there are a lot of simple games that are really fun, but they don't overwear their welcome. Like, great, we've done our thing. Bye, see you later. This was like, no, I'm gonna spread out on the sofa and just like have a seat. Maybe I'll stay over tonight and watch the show. It felt like that. And I'm like, get out. Antiquity Quest, I'm sure with the right set of people would be good. I definitely recommend playing the shorter version, especially if it's your first time playing it. It just wasn't for me. So, Antiquity Quest.
All right. Not every game can't be for every person.
Sure,
In point of
absolutely.
fact, we may be talking about some games right now, Mandy, that aren't for you. We'll see. So this is going to be a bit of a twofer because I think I mentioned it last episode, but I'm a huge fan of Itten games out of Japan. They
Mhm.
did Tokyo Highway and they did Crash Octopus. I love their games and their mindset about games and everything. And right now,
Yeah.
they do have a Kickstarter right now for this series they call the Fun Brick series.
I'm
Now, the
backing
Fun
it.
Brick series, oh, okay, good. So the Fun Brick series, the boxes, they're like 2 inches wide and 8 inches tall. They're so slim. They're really cool
Yeah.
looking. And you just slide the box out, and you have the game components. And really just the cleverness, kind of like Oink games,
Mhm.
the cleverness of how the components are designed and packed into the boxes for such a small package is really fun. Part of my enjoyment of the products in general. But I just wanted to talk about my two favorites. So there are five available on the Kickstarter, and I'm just going to talk about my two favorite. And
Mhm.
you know, this isn't paid or anything. I just love these games. So, spoiler alert. So,
Yeah.
Viking Seesaw. This is designed by Reiner Knizia. Dr. Knizia himself designed this game.
Okay.
And the art is by Yoshiaki Tomoka. And when you open it up, it's just chock full of stuff. And the main component is this purple boat platform. It's kind of shaped loosely like a boat, and it's got a point in the middle, so it's gonna wibble, right? It's like a little mini seesaw. It's a boat seesaw. And then
Wibble.
you've got like there are a bunch of brown wood cubes, there are some red plastic balls, there are gold metal cubes, silver metal cubes, blue rubber bands, all this stuff. And basically, every player gets a set of components. And the game is so simple. It's just put a component onto one of the sides of the boat. If you make the boat tilt, then that's bad. Well, you have to take there's some crates that start on the boat and you have to take one. You get a component if you make the boat tilt.
Mhm.
If you knock components off, you have to take those components into your collection to put on in a future turn. And all
Right.
that's bad because you win the game by being the first person to get rid of all of your components. It's dead simple. Where it gets where just it's so much fun it is in its simplicity and in the cleverness of these components
Right.
because they are different materials. You've got plastic, wood, and metal that you're dealing with, and they are different shapes. And literally, when you have balls
Mhm.
that you're trying to balance on things that are then cube shaped, or there's like a meeple shaped one in there too, that gets really interesting from a dexterity point of view. And the variable weight gets really interesting as well as you're trying to
Mm.
calculate that and you're stacking things up. And because it's so simple to teach, because it's so easy and quick to play, it's something that you can really just throw down and enjoy for what it is. And just the fact that they've got that mixed component set, the fact that it's in such a small, compact container, it makes it a stellar game experience. It's
Yeah.
just a ton of fun. Now, if you don't like dexterity or balanced dexterity, that's what the game is. Now, my other favorite game from this Fun Brick series is called Stick Collector.
Mm.
I think it was called Masked by in a previous edition.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Okay, yeah. And so the designer is Yoshihisa Itsubaki. And again, the art or illustration is Yoshaki Tomoka. And this one has a ton of just pink sticks, and they're variable lengths with just 5 millimeters difference between the different lengths. And ultimately, uh, you you want to get a set of sticks that gradiates, like it gradually slopes perfectly, right? You want that perfect mix of
Mhm.
sticks. Or if you can get four sticks that are exactly the same length, instant win. Really,
Oh.
really simple game, right?
Mm.
The way you get these sticks is one is drawn out of the box at random and put into this little container you get, and that holds it upright. And from like a certain number of feet away minimum, you've got to look at your sticks and then look at the stick that's up and determine how much you want it. And then you have to determine how much
Uh,
you want to bid
mhm.
because it is a bidding game.
Ah.
So you've got this board where your little money marker is, and then you can bid how much you want for the stick, and whoever wins the bid gets it. Cool. The extra twist. So honestly, that's a fun game to me in and of itself. And the component cleverness here, my favorite random component is that the way the box works, you telescope the bottom out, and then the one side of it has a little cut, like it looks like a thumb hole cut
Mhm.
out, but they use it as the game. You put all the sticks back into the box, and then you use it to shake. It lets the sticks come out of the little thumb cut so that you can randomize the sticks as they come out. Such a simple thing, but it very, very clever.
Right.
But the one of the real twists beyond your ability to recognize like spatial size is the auction board, the money
Mm.
tracking board. It kind of has a shoots and ladders or snakes and ladders element to it because some of the spaces connect back to other spaces. So like if
Right.
you end on a 22, maybe that actually bumps you back up to 30. So all of a
Mm.
sudden if you end your bid on 22, boop, nope, you just went up to 30. Or
Oh, no.
sometimes it's like, oh, if you bid 18, bloop, no, you actually bid 12 because you
Oh,
landed on the 18 and the 18 connects down. So
right.
it's got this weird shoots and ladders thing going on that adds this extra layer to the bidding that is really, really meaningful and clever and fun to try to work your way around. So, if you're interested in these kinds of games, honestly, the Kickstarter is probably going to be your best way to get them if you don't live in Asia. So that's why I bring it up now. And my personal favorites, Viking Seesaw and Stick Collector, just fabulous, fabulous little fun games.
They're super cute. The only thing is on the Kickstarter, you can't it's not one of those ones where you can, like, choose, like, "I want this one, this one, this one." You
I
have to
think,
buy.
did you back it right away?
No, I backed it later, and they had changed it from before, so unless they
Right.
changed it again, you have to like, there was one I was looking at, but then I was like, "Okay, I want this game, but I don't want this game." Do you know what I mean? Like, it has 2 games in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the only thing, so you might end up with one that you're like, maybe so-so about, and then I
Sure.
think you can add on after, if I'm not mistaken, but yes, you do have to back, like, one of the
Got it.
sets.
Got it.
Yeah, so
So, okay. So, for folks who remember us on the Dice Tower podcast, we had a segment that we would do occasionally called One and Done. And we're not really doing a one and done segment, but Amanda, I believe you brought this up as if we were doing a one and done, this
yeah,
would be one.
it's oh, this one I don't say this too often. This one made me angry, actually. A little, I'm not angry. It made me a little upset. And not potentially in the way that you think, but cryptid urban legends. For
Yeah.
those who can't see, because you're listening, my mouth right now is like, "Arr." So it's designed by Hal Duncan and Ruth Vevers, and I apologize if I mispronounced that. Art is by Kwanshai Moria and published by Osprey Games. It's for
Yeah.
2 players and it plays in 20 to 40 minutes. So, Suzanne, my brain is all scrambly right now because I'm like, oh, I have so much to say. Can you give a
Yeah.
little blurby blurb about it?
Yeah. So, obviously there was the larger not dexterity deduction game Cryptid, and so this feels like an offshoot. Really, their association is just thematic and the
Yeah,
fact that they're abstract
cryptid
deduction games,
adjacent.
but there's no other tie to it. Basically, in this one, two player only, one player plays the Cryptid and one player plays the Hunter. And you've got these city block cards, and then you've got playing cards and a bunch of cubes. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be using cards to manipulate where these cubes, there's like white, pink, and black. You're going to manipulate where these cubes go between the city blocks. And then over time, you're going to be adding more cards, which then creates more spaces for your cubes to go. And, the cryptid will end up giving clues like pink and white. And then the hunter's trying to figure out, well, what position could that mean? Or five.
Mm,
Whoa, well, then what position does that mean? And I think at the end, the cryptid wins by getting a certain number of cubes in certain locations, and the hunter wins by having fewer cubes in one location. Something, I'll be honest, I
yeah,
don't really remember that
it's
level of
been a little while,
detail.
yeah.
So just, an abstract game, an abstract two-player deduction game is what it is purported to be.
It
All right,
just
Mandy, let loose the hounds.
so I went in, and this partly my fault. I went in with with the expectation, okay, it's probably like a similar type of concept as the original because I didn't know anything about it. Come to find out, absolutely not. Okay, fine. Then just trying to get through the rules and understanding the flow of the game, I have never felt more stupid. Seriously, in my entire life. I was like, why am I not getting this? And I played it with Ashley, who, I would consider I
Ashley
would
is a very savvy gamer.
exactly. So I mean, I might not get it. I get it. And let's be clear. I'm not. I'm a rather intelligent person. I think my three university degrees reflect that. So not to say I know everything, but I got a brain. And so then Ashley also she played with me, and even she was like, "What is happening?" We were both so confused
Yeah.
just by the play, the rules. I didn't get it. We tried it again, still didn't get it. And I'm like, you know what? I want to play a game, even if the rules are a little funny. Okay, maybe we can get through it. I want to play a game that makes me feel good, even if I'm terrible at it. And I do a lot of those, and I'm okay with it. This one, it just like left a really bad feeling in my mouth. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine this being a game that someone walked away from saying, I felt good about that. So for me, I know it sounds like a lot of feeling based, but that's the type of player that I am. And I know there are a lot of people that are like that. It like, I can't even get the words out. I'm so upset about it. It just was like, "No, I'm good if I never play this game again."
Yeah, unfortunately, my experience is similar to yours. It was a game I've played multiple times, but purely because we were trying to figure out how to play it.
Right.
And I can't say for sure that we ever played it 100% correctly. And I will say it's gorgeous.
It
It's
is.
apps,
Beautiful.
the illustrations, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful, beautiful game and very well
100%.
produced. But ultimately, yeah, when I was thinking about, well, two-player only, kind of cat and mouse, what I don't, there's a game called Fugitive from Fowers Games in
Yes.
which, one play, and you've got cards and how far you can move, and it's kind of hidden movement deduction style. Um I couldn't beyond I felt similar to you. I just didn't
Yeah.
do anything for me. I don't know that I played it correctly, and I can think of many I could think at least of a few other games that are kind of fit the same category that I would play
Right.
before I would ever open this one again too,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
exactly. So, cryptid urban legends, not for us, but hey, if you had a more positive experience, by all means, please let us know.
All right, Mandy, before we go on to serve up our delicious game pie, let's talk about One More Gate, a Wakfu legend. Now,
Mm,
you and I have been talking about all sorts of digital games like Slay the Spire or Monster Train, this
right.
kind of world of deck building roguelike games
Mhm.
that has sprung up as kind of its own category of games over the last few years, which depending on how you feel about them is really, really exciting or kind of like, okay, we're done with it because there's so
Exactly.
many of them now.
Yeah.
But personally, I really like this type of game. And so I'm always excited when I see a new one to see what fresh thing it brings. And one of the things that really grabbed me about One More Gate is it's actually being published by Ankama.
Ah,
And right. And we would know if even if you're not a video game person at all, you would know Ankama through their board games
mhm.
like Crossmaster and Draftosaurus,
Yeah,
right?
surprise.
Right. And now Crossmaster is actually in the same universe as One
Right.
More Gate, this Wakfu universe that Ankama has built up. Same general world. And
Yeah.
I'm not really familiar with it, but chances are there's some character or creature overlap there as well. So One More Gate, you are going to have cards that are going to give attacks and defense and boosts, and you're going to be going through a map, choosing directions. And at certain points, you're going to have battles. At certain points, you're going to be doing upgrades or getting treasures and things like that. And all of that sounds like a lot of other
Mhm.
deck building roguelike games.
Yeah.
So for me, some of the things that differentiates One More Gate. One, aesthetically, it's a beautifully produced game experience,
Mhm.
and all of the character builds and character designs and graphics look really beautiful. So, from that perspective, really, really great there. Now, I have found in general the game to be a little simpler, a little less reading than some of the
Right.
other games in this category. So I was playing it and my 10-year-old came in and said, "Hey, what's that? Can I try it?" I'm like, "Yeah, give it a whirl." He jumped right in,
Nice.
played some rounds, like, "This is really fun," and really, really enjoyed it. It was much easier for him to jump into,
And he
which
was
I
probably
like.
really good at it because I've seen him play some games and he
Yeah.
is so good.
Oh, the digital era. And the other thing that I thought was interesting, which is a really subtle detail, but I think we all will appreciate, is you can upgrade cards, but when you upgrade a card, you're actually upgrading that card type. So if
Mhm.
I upgrade, a shield, all the shields in my deck have
Right.
gotten that upgrade. You don't have to upgrade individual cards, which personally I really liked. I
Yeah.
liked how that kind of made it go for me.
Mhm.
There are some other subtleties in terms of you always attack, like in some of these games, you can pick which enemy you're targeting with
Yes.
attacks. In One More Gate, you're only targeting, well, the attacks auto target
Depending on the
the
card.
enemy in the front,
Yeah.
which really, really impacts your choices, and it also makes the cards that let you shuffle enemies
Yes.
around.
And stun. Stun
Yep.
is good.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh god, you need those stuns
Yeah.
because they hit
Oh.
hard. And then you build up. So the way that the economy works is that on a turn you start off with a certain number of spend points, and then the next turn you get more, and the next turn you get more. And so you can't play those power cards in round 1 in turn 1 until you build up to it. But once you get up to like the 6th round, I
Mhm.
think, then you also get your like uber move. It's like this super powerful move that just unleashes this havoc and um and so that's kind of fun too. And again, it really forces you to pay attention to the
Yeah,
timing of your play, which I think is a really compelling bit in this one as well. So those were some of the things that stood out for me in One More Gate. I've actually really been enjoying it and going through the progression, and I like a lot of the different things that it brings to it. It does feel a little bit lighter to me than some of
right.
the other ones out there, and that's not a criticism. I find that it's a little more chill for me to play, and I'll tell you, some days, that's exactly what I want.
That's what you need,
How about you,
exactly.
Mandy?
I feel like I think you liked it a little more than I did. I liked it. I think you just liked it more, and I think it falls into the fact that, it's a simpler game, and again, nothing wrong with
Yep.
simpler game. I think I was just left feeling like I wanted a little bit more, and maybe that's because I'm used to the Slay the Spires and other games that are similar. I did have some issues with the font. Now, this is
Oh.
the type of game that I'll usually play on my laptop, which is like a 15-inch screen.
Mhm, mhm.
And I play games like Slay the Spire and Grifflins and all of these other ones, and I don't have as much issue with it. Now, I wear glasses. It's fairly, if you're watching the podcast, and hindsight's not amazing, but with the glasses, it's pretty good. But I did find this font small. I could see it, but
Oh, okay.
and this, let's be clear, this is a problem across a lot of games in general. And this is where accessibility comes into play. Like, I feel like those options were missing for me. And
Mhm,
I'm the type of person, granted, I may not have, uh, sight challenges like others do, but I do like, for example, I like subtitles or I like larger text. And that's the
mhm,
first menu I go to when I play a game. And oftentimes it's either not there or the idea of a larger font is, you know, like a size bigger. So
mhm,
that for me is something that I focus on, and I did find that that was lacking. But like you were saying, the art is really nice. The gameplay is very smooth. It's very simple, and I did like the fact that you had choices. Like when you got abilities, you're like, oh, but this one's really good. But sometimes you had to knock one out to get one that might have been slightly different or a little bit better. So I really enjoyed that. And then I
mhm,
liked that
mhm.
even if you failed your run, you weren't like completely out. You still had an opportunity to go to the
Right.
shop, and kind of sort out your deck and potentially upgrade some cards. And I like that because there are some games that are just unforgiving. And then if you end your run, that's it. Like your progress is gone. You got to start over. So I do appreciate that kind of tracking of your progress. So one more gate, a walkthrough legend. For me, I enjoyed it. I think you just enjoyed it a little bit more.
Each to their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Mandy, you wanna serve up some game pie?
Oh yes, you can 100% tell who chose this category of game.
And I'm so glad that you did, thank you.
All right, I thought I'd try my hand at picking game pie. I mean, we do it together, but usually Suzanne will come up with something. Oh yeah, I like that. I just branched out on my own here. So this one is, oh yeah, that game. Now, some of you are like, know exactly what you're talking about. Others might need some clarification. So these are games in your collection that are good, but you have so many that you forgot about them. So maybe they need to hit the table soon. Huh? Huh? And I know we all have it because I came up with
Oh, yeah.
a bunch right away. So let me just jump right in. And it's because I was looking at it yesterday. Quadropolis. So
I
I
love that
have
game,
really
yeah.
liked it. And let me tell you, this game was expensive. And I think it's really expensive to buy now. Yeah, it was because I had a lot of like cardboard and stuff. And it's one of those games where, you're kind of like building up your city and trying to like, you know, get certain buildings beside other buildings to get more points. And it's
Yeah.
just one of those games that's not super difficult, but I just really liked the way that it played, and it did make you think a little bit. So, and it's also I thought it was a nice looking game. So it's a Days of Wonder game, and I know if you try and go and get it now, I think it's like $70. It's not cheap. So
Oh, it must be
Quadropolis,
out of print then, what?
no, that was one of the controversies with this game when it came out, that it was really expensive.
Re
So
I
yeah.
don't remember I don't remember that, actually, I'll be really honest.
'Cause this is one that I did buy, and I remember going, "Ooh, ouch." It was a little pricey. Don't get me wrong, I played it, but it's one of those ones I haven't played in so long, and I was looking at it the other day and going, "Oh, yeah, I think I might have to bring that out to
Yeah.
the table." So, Quadropolis.
Great choice in my
Yeah.
collection, and you're right, I haven't played it in a while. First slice up for me in our how do you say it, Mandy?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Game 5 is, Niet. Niet is a trick-taking game in which it's just I love trick-taking games, and any ones that add a nice little trick or twist, are always standouts to me, and Niet does a great little twist in which how you pick your suits, and you get a little suit tracking board and all this other stuff, and, oh, now, Mandy, darn it, I don't even remember who published the latest version of it, but it's a beautiful production, and Yellow
Yeah,
produced
I
a
was gonna
really
say,
lovely
it's funny, that's
production
exactly what I was thinking of.
of it with, like, these, I don't know, theoretically, like, Russian bears, I don't know,
R Yeah,
but
okay.
but it's a super great trick-taking game with a twist,
Yeah.
and I just hadn't I've been playing a ton of trick-taking games lately, because it feels like more and more are coming out, but Niet is a good one that needs to get back to the table very, very soon.
Yeah, that's been a hot minute. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a good one.
yeah.
Good choice. So the next one on my list is Sentient, and this is, I believe, Renegade Games did this one. It's been a hot minute since I played it. I just do remember that I really enjoyed it, and I remember it being very mathy, if I'm not
Yo,
mistaken.
yeah.
Which is, for me, math is not my strong suit, but I can do math, and I actually enjoyed it in this game. And please correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I played it. If I remember, it's kind of you're trying to modify your board, or is it modifying cards? Oh gosh, it's been so long. Hold
You're
on.
trying to you try to get this range of cards, right?
Yes.
And, like, they have
Yes.
values on the sides that can impact the value of the card next to it, so how you place those is, uh, really, really interesting,
Yeah,
and
so if Randy's listening, that was I think it was Randy that I played it with. That's the last time I played it, and that was a long time ago. So, this is
mm.
one, it's sitting there, I saw it the other day, I'm like, "Hello. You need to come out to the table."
Yeah,
So,
it's
Sentient.
it's a really, really solid game, and, Mandy, that would have been on my list if it wasn't already on yours, so good
Okay,
choice.
good.
My next slice is Among the Stars. This is a game that uses square cards that represent different like rooms
Mhm.
in a space station, and so you're drafting them and just laying them out to try to optimize score and position. It's like a tile laying game where you have adjacency and stuff like that. I always loved Among the Stars, and 10 years ago or 8 years ago, it however many oh my gosh. It was probably in my top 100 games. Now, a lot of other games have come they actually rethemed Among the Stars into, like, Fields of Green, so they made it agriculture instead of
Hmm,
sci-fi. I
right.
actually prefer the space setting,
Hmm,
and I always just really like those tile lane adjacency games in general, like Quadropolis,
yeah.
right? And Among the Stars does what it does very, very well, and I've always really enjoyed it, and it's just been, like, years since I've played it, and it used to be one of my favorite games, so I should probably play it again.
Yeah, exactly. Among the Stars, yeah, it's been a minute for me too. Well, there's another game on my list. I played this game, like, I destroyed it, and I mean in a good way, just
Oh,
destroyed it.
okay.
So, it's
Thanks
a
for
mission
clarifying that.
yeah, no, in a good way. Mission Red Planet. Oh my goodness, my friends loved this game, we played it so much, and then it just, like, it just dropped off because I ended up just so many games that I was getting to play, like, "Oh, I wanna play this, I wanna play this." But Mission Red Planet is great. It's one of those ones where everyone has a set of cards, you're trying to play cards to get on the planet, and you want it to take off, right, with your people so you can get points. Nothing was worse than when someone would play a card to boot your people out. That used to annoy me. Or when I would try to get because you have objectives, right, that you're trying to complete, and not all of them are visible, like they're secret. So you can only when you're exploring the board, you want to try and get to it so you can see what the objective is, see what you're working toward. Nothing was worse was that Phobos objective. I swear to you, I would get this one where you had to have like a certain amount of people on Phobos,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everybody would know when I saw it because then it'd be like, "Oh, okay, that objective's out." And then they would always go and try and kick me out of there or at least try to take over so I didn't get the objective. Yes, and my last memory of, Mission Red Planet is Suzanne knocking over my nicely lined up astronauts. Yeah, that's right, you. So,
Yeah,
uh
there's 2 type of players, right?
so Mission Red Planet, as you can see me talking about it, had so much fun with it, but I haven't played it for a good while. I think the last time I played was with you, Suzanne, on the Dice Tower Cruise.
It's been a while then.
It's been a while.
Great game. Love that game.
Yeah, so good.
All right, next up for me, oh yeah, Deluvia Project.
Yes. It's on my shelf. I haven't even played it yet. Like, it's on my
Ugh.
shelf
Well,
staring at me.
you have to come back for another visit and we'll get it played. Deluvia Project is a Spielworks game, and it's one of my favorites that Spielworks
Mm.
has ever published. This one, like setting wise, something about building the first cities in the sky.
Mhm.
Mm. But it's a tile laying game where, again, Quadropolis and Among the Stars. I just really like tile laying games where you're laying out tiles, trying to build an appealing city and get population and things like that. So it's got some worker placement. And actually, Mandy, I just thought about it.
Mhm.
Deluvia and Quadropolis have a similar element in
Ooh.
one of the clever bits of the games is how you get your tiles, where you have this grid of tiles that you can pull from, and rows and columns and availability are impacted by where those tiles are in that availability
Oh,
grid.
cool.
And
Yeah.
actually, Deluvia has that, and Quadropolis has it. So a common link there.
Okay.
And super fun mechanism in both games, and one of the things that makes these games rise above a little
Yeah.
bit. So Deluvia Project I haven't played in a number of years, and I really really miss it actually.
Yeah, well, now you have an excuse to play it again because I need to learn it because it's literally I bought fancy cubes for it, okay? Like
Oh
gold
my gosh,
cubes.
oh good gravy. Okay.
So we have to play it. Oh, my final piece of oh yeah pie is Kingsburg. I feel Kingsburg. Is there an app for Kingsburg? I feel like if there isn't, there should be.
There may be, I don't remember off the top
Because
of my
I feel
head though.
that would make a good app, but that's just
Hmm.
me. But Kingsburg is one of those games that's been around for a long time. I think they even did
Oh
like a
yes, yeah,
remake
there
of
is.
it.
Sorry, yeah, there is.
Is there an app? Oh,
Yeah,
how did
with
I
the
not know
dice,
this?
right? I was thinking of a different
Yeah.
game. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So like, and I think they did a remake of Kingsburg, if I'm not mistaken. I have the original one, but I think with there's like an expansion I got it with, but I think there's a new one that has been made. And it's one of those games, if you're kind of new to gaming, I feel like that's one of the games that a lot of people will show you.
Hmm.
And it's really simple. You have dice and you're trying to put your dice in certain kind of houses in this castle where different people are because they give you different things. You have a board where you're trying to build up and you want to protect yourself because there's some like war things happening and you want to make sure that you're set up to defend yourself. So that's like a very basic overview of the game. It's not hard, but it is a dice game. So, there's some luck involved. But this game, anytime we played it, we just had a really good time with it. And I was cleaning out the shelves and it sits there with Alhambra and a few other the classic ones. And I was like, I haven't played this one in a while. Gotta bring it over and, just like a kind of a light game before we get into some more of that crunchy stuff. So Kingsburg is one I think I need to revisit soon.
I great. What I can tell you, the the Kingsburg Roland Wright game.
Yeah, I heard it was not.
Mm-mm,
It was not
mm-mm,
it.
mm-mm.
It
Yeah.
just gets to know. But I do prefer Kingsburg because it makes me think of, is it Marco Polo or was it Marco Polo? Marco something? Anyway, it's the one with the camels. Anyway, I did not enjoy that game, and it had
Okay.
it had
Yeah,
similarities to
that
Kingsburg.
that board game with
I
the
swear
camels.
people will know the one that what I'm talking about.
Camel Up?
No, it is not Camel Up. It's
Oh,
the
okay,
only
but
reason I
that's a game
remember
with
this
camels.
because
Jaipur?
no, because I had a friend who had a
But
character.
Jaipur has camels. Which
No,
board game with camels, Mandy?
the
You
phrase of
can't
the night.
say that board game with camels. Every game has camels.
The phrase of the night was, "I get a camel. I get a camel. I get a camel," because his character kept getting all the camels, and it was driving me
I think it's Marco
wild.
Polo. I think it's Marco Polo.
See, I knew Marco Polo. No, Kingsburg. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, the one with the camels. All right.
Yeah, the camels.
All right. Hey, how about a game with no camels? Maybe that'll make it easier to identify. Last slice of this game pie, Key Flow.
Yes.
And Mandy, I've played this with you and I know you enjoy it. I love Key
So
Flow.
good.
Now, I like the Key series in general. There's some hits and some misses in there, but
Sure.
um and now I can't remember Keyflower. Keyflower, love Keyflower. Now, I only want to play Keyflower with people I know. That is
Yeah.
a hard lesson learned. I had
Fair
a
point.
terrible game of Keyflower once with some strangers. Hard lesson learned there. But I love Keyflower in general. But it's a pretty big
Mhm.
game that can take a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
And Keyflow offers some similar elements to Keyflower, but in what I feel is a much more streamlined experience. It's cards only, and cards actually represent your land spaces, and
Hmm.
what they offer, but you can also get cards that have meeples printed on them that
Yeah.
represent your workers, right? So you get this hand of cards and you're drafting and you're trying, oh, do I need meeples this round or do I need to expand my land and how am I going to get resources and things like that? It it just clicks so beautifully. It's not a light game, but it feels breezy. I don't know.
Hmm.
It's very rewarding to play. It's very satisfying to play. I love the drafting. I love how the cards work. I love Keyflow. And honestly, I don't know why I haven't played it more recently because I actually have thought about it once in a while. I'm like,
Hmm.
God, I really want to get to the table. It's just so many games. But Keyflow, if you have not tried it and you like Keyflower, I
Yeah,
definitely recommend you check it out. And
absolutely.
Mandy, I think we need to set a target date
Yes.
and then challenge ourselves to get our oh yeah games played before that time. What do you think?
I think so. I'm looking at it and it definitely could happen for sure. I think so.
Okay. So we want to say like what's reasonable? Like in 6 months we want to check back and
Yeah.
be like, all right. So folks out there, help hold us accountable, but I'm looking at this list going, I want to get these played. So
Oh, for sure. And now I have to add Deluvia Project because it's like I haven't
well,
played it,
and
so that needs
sentient
to
for me, for sure. So
needs to
yeah.
get over on that list. And something I should have mentioned earlier is that someone had written to us and said that we should consider creating a forum, whether it be on BGG or something, so people can chat about maybe some of the things that we've
Oh,
talked about on the podcast. And I didn't know if that was something that people were interested in. So I it's thank you for letting us know about that because we love that you want to talk about maybe some of the things that we talked about on the podcast. But if this is something that you're interested in, let us know. And then Suzanne's gonna roll through some of the contacts for what? That was like the best transition ever. Yes. I ruined it just now, but that's okay. I had
yeah.
to give myself some recognition. Okay, Suzanne, over to you.
Yeah, well, maybe I can set up a board game geek guild really easily, so that's not a big deal
I
at
think
all.
yeah, I think people just want a place to just
I
have
like
some
that. I like
discussion.
that.
Yeah.
Well, along with apparently a future board game geek guild, you can always get a hold of us through email. That's saltandsassgames@gmail.com.
Yep.
If you want to ask questions, if you have suggestions like this, perfect example. If you have suggestions on something about the show, if you have feedback, again, we're still very early in this new series. And so, very open to constructive criticism and things you like and things that you'd like to see done
Absolutely.
differently. Open to all of that. You can email us. You can also check us out on social media. Mandy, I know that you have a very specific order you like to do
Order.
this in.
Yes. So social media, you can find us here on YouTube as well as Twitch.
Now you
And
understand we say here on YouTube that there's like more people listen to the podcast than watch on YouTube right now.
okay. Rewind.
Okay.
Okay, so you can find us on social media and several social Now you're screwing me up. Okay, let me try it again. So, okay, take three. So you can follow us on social media or other types of social platforms like YouTube and Twitch, and you can find us there at Salt and Sass Games. You can file. Wow, now I'm stuttering. I'm sorry. This is where the brain is like the mouth is going faster than the brain.
You
You can
got it,
also
Mandy. You can
find
do it.
us. I know. I'm gonna pull through. You can also find us on Twitter at Salt N Sass Games. And hey, if you want to reach out to me directly, you can find me at 613 Mandy. That's Mandy with an I on Twitter and Instagram. I realize I haven't said that at all.
Well, it's about darn time you brought it back.
I'm bringing it back.
And of course, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at 425 Suzanne. And I've also got accounts on Co-host and Mastodon and Tumblr now, all over the place. I don't
You're on
use any of them
Tumblr?
yet.
I'm
Well,
on Tumblr.
I just,
I just
it's brand new for
oh, I
me.
just poured. I've had it forever. I just never use it.
You're just more advanced than me. Hey, folks, as always, thank you so much for joining us for episode 5. great to have you here. We, really appreciate everybody's comments on social media
Yeah.
and on YouTube. And, I'm glad to know that everybody's flowing through the podcast on Google and on Apple Podcasts and all that stuff. And we're all set now. It's been great to see people finding us there. And really, it continues to be a pleasure and privilege to be part of your extended gaming family. Thank you for being here for us to talk with about all the wonderful things in Board Game Landia.
Yes.
We will be back in 2 weeks with episode 6. Can't wait to see you then.
Yes, it was a struggle at the end there, everybody, but thanks so much for sticking with us. Bye. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. If you'd like to support the podcast, please check us out on coffee.com/Salt and Sass Games. Thank you for your support. Salt and Sass is produced with love by Suzanne and Mandi, and we'll be back next episode with more salt, more sass, and more games.